back to another LEGO Star Wars set review. Today we're going to be reviewing set number 75299, Trouble on Tatooine, with 276 pieces, ages 7+, and retails for $29.99 or $30 US. So the first minifigure we're going to take a look at here is the Mandalorian, decked out in his Beskar armor here. It's got some really good leg detail, as well as some good torso detail. Really good torso detail. He also has some arm detail as well, so if we lift his cape up here, you can kind of see it there. Same detail on the other side of his arm. He's got this cape accessory as well, but under the cape there is some back torso detail as well. And then of course your typical Mandalorian helmet with that Beskar gray going on. And then under the helmet it is just the black soulless face, I suppose. No face printing or anything there. Comes with a pistol accessory, as well as his pulse rifle, disintegration rifle thing that he's used throughout the Mandalorian series. The next minifigure, and probably the reason why people really get this set, is Grogu, or the child as the set calls him, or Baby Yoda as everyone else calls him pretty much. So really tiny minifigure. You can see he's got some torso detail there, a little bit. No back torso detail or anything. His head is actually made of like that rubber material, kind of like, what was it? It was Paul Krell in the Z95 Headhunter set. He had kind of like this rubber torso and head. Grogu kind of has that same sort of material going on with him. His arms are not movable, his legs are not movable, they're all just this one static piece. And you can see there on the underside, Grogu's body takes up one stud as opposed to two. So, pretty cool figure to get, and like I said, people are probably getting this set just to have Grogu. Because you either get the set here, that's $30, or you get the Razor Crest, that's like around 4 times or more in terms of price. So, very expensive, like $120 or something like that. So obviously people are going to get the cheaper set to get Grogu. And then the final minifigure, can't have a Tatooine set without a Tusken Raider, which also makes sense considering the set is based off of Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian, where the Mando and the Sheriff team up with the Tusken Raiders, so you got to throw in a Tusken Raider in there. It's got some pretty good leg detail here. Torso detail as well, no arm detail. Does have some back torso detail. I really do like the head mold on the Tusken Raiders. It's a really good, kind of like shows off the bandages and stuff like that, and it's just a really good head mold. And he comes with this staff accessory. So now onto the set itself. I'm actually going to break this apart and cover each individual part of the set as well, because it's kind of like 3 sets built into one. So I'm going to start with the speeder, then we're going to do the hut thing here, and then we're going to finish off with like this Dragonfly harpoon launcher sort of looking thing. Alright, so here we're going to cover the speeder first. Obviously based off of the speeder in both Season 1 and Season 2 of The Mandalorian, where the Mandalorian uses a speeder to travel across Tatooine. Obviously the set is based off of Season 2, Episode 1, so it would be that speeder, which is the same speeder in Season 1. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here, but this speeder has some pretty good detail to it. You can see the underside here is really good in terms of detail. Both sides actually match as well. And that's actually the part you start the build with. So as you get towards the end of the speeder build, you actually start building like the top stuff. So I was thinking this was going to be a really cool looking speeder. Obviously off the box it looks cool, and I thought, wow, this is going to have a lot of detail. And then as you get towards the top, it's like, oh, never mind, because the top isn't incredibly detailed here, as you can see. In terms of playability, there's not too much to say. Obviously, there's the seat for Mando, kind of like these little sand-colored bricks. That's where you would sit Mando, and then Grogu would go on the side in this little backpack thing here, which might be hard to see there. You can kind of see it here. He would just slip in right here. With very minimal effort. So I'm going to grab the Mandalorian here and Grogu, and I'm going to put them in the speeder. Alright, so the only way I got the Mando to sit down, because this is a very difficult thing, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, is I only got him to sit down like in this like laid back position, which is not at all like the box, and It is kind of like the box, actually. The box art kind of shows him a little bit like sitting back, kind of into that slope piece. So obviously, it's very awkward. I don't really like the seating position for the Mando here in the speeder, and this might be the biggest downside to the set. Because obviously, if you're going to make a speeder in a LEGO Star Wars set, you want your character to sit down properly, but Mando's not really sitting down properly in this one, so that kind of sucks. But probably the biggest thing here, and the most important one for anyone, is the spot for Grogu. So I am going to zoom in again. I'm going to place Grogu here in that little spot. Alright, so we're going to take good old Grogu here, and I am just going to put the speeder right here. And the thing with Grogu is that you're going to have to place him right inside that little big slot. And just push him down a little bit so that way you can kind of see the underside of Grogu. His legs are kind of secured in place. And then you can see, looks pretty good. But I don't like the way Mando sits in the speeder, and that might be the biggest downside of this entire set by far, is just the way he sits. But that is pretty much legitimately the way he is supposed to sit, so yeah. Nice looking speeder, pretty good detail. Again, don't like the way Mando actually sits in it. Obviously, the spot for Grogu, though, is ingenious, and it looks great. So, not a terrible speeder, not a great speeder. Obviously, for playability, because the driver sits kind of awkwardly. But other than that, not terrible. Alright, so now moving on to the shack here. You can see it is pretty good. It's actually very well made for the little parts that it uses. I'm just going to circle it around here, so that way you can kind of take in everything. So here's the exterior back walls. Obviously not really detailed, but that's not a big deal for a $30 set. And obviously the exterior is not something that's really important. It's more of the interior look. So you can see here we have like this fireplace out front with the little fire coming up. There's this little pot inside with like a bone in it. It's a really weird sort of part of the set. Alright, so here is what the interior looks like. Which, it's not bad, and they try to go and put a little bit of detail in here. But again, there's only so much you can do just with the size of this little hut. But they tried their best, and it doesn't look horrible. And it doesn't look horrible on the outside or from a distance, and, you know, it is what it is. But let me see, I'm going to grab our Tusken Raider real quick, and we're gonna kind of set them on. This is like the Tusken Raider's little camp area. So not a bad little addition to the set. Probably the most useless thing out of here. The only reason I say the speeder is more useful is because obviously there is playability involved with that, whereas the hut is more of a cosmetic thing where, yes, there is some playability to it, but it's more so for aesthetics of the set. There's not really anything that you can really use it for. There's no like missiles that shoot out of it or anything. So it's just kind of there for the look. It looks pretty cool. I'd say it does look better than the speeder. Of course, we're comparing a hut to a speeder, so that's kind of stupid. That's not really a fair comparison, but I would say that this does look pretty cool, especially for the low amount of pieces that it uses. So yeah, not a bad looking little hut thing, but again, probably not going to use it that much because there's not really much playability involved with it in terms of functions. This is just something that you really have to kind of use your imagination, figure something out for it. Alright, so here is the last part of the set. This is what I call the Dragonfly Launcher. I don't know if there's an official name to it, but this is the little harpoon gun things that the Tusken Raiders used to take on the Crate Dragon in Season 2 of Episode 1 of The Mandalorian. Anyways, looking at the detail here, this is really well done in terms of detail. In the back, you have this winding mechanism that operates like if you're to pull back the harpoon and the bows would go back. Obviously, that isn't a function of the set. These things are in place permanently. This is just for cosmetics. But like this and the little string thing in front of it, it looks really good overall. Obviously, it's held up not really by these three legs. It's actually held up by this clear 2x2 brick. So that's really what's holding up the whole mechanism. But obviously, the legs do work. So if you want to take the brick off, it would actually stay up. So I'm going to attach the Tusken Raider to the set. Get rid of the staff here. So obviously you would place him, you would actually attach his hand to this back mechanism. So got Tusken Raider here. I'm just going to attach him right on. And that's the way the box art kind of depicts him using this set. So, and you can see he sits very well onto the Lego bricks, and it aligns really well. So it looks cool. And obviously there is a playability feature, so it's not all just looks. So the playability feature is this flick fire missile here at the front, and what you have to do is flick it down and it will fire. I've actually had trouble with this flick fire missile. For some reason it won't fire properly. There's like a real specific way to flick this one, unlike the TIE Fighter or the X-Wing flick fire missiles, right? This one requires like a real particular way to flick it. But either way, you do have to flick this down. All right, so let's see if we can demonstrate this. So flick down. There we go, first try. Obviously a really aggressive flick, but it did launch. I was worried it wouldn't do it first try. I was worried I'd be sitting here trying to fire this thing. But it has to be like a real aggressive sort of flick. See, like right there. There we go. That did it as well. So, yeah, it actually works well. You just got to hit it in a very particular fashion to be able to fire it. They do give you an extra harpoon thing as well. So, if you lose this one, obviously don't worry about it, because there is a spare that they throw in. Alright, so I think I covered everything for this set. Very good set for $30. Definitely worth picking up if you are a fan of the Mandalorian TV series. Obviously, if you haven't watched it, it is worth watching. Season 1 and Season 2 are both out now. Check it out if you haven't seen it before. But yeah, really good set to put with all my other Mandalorian sets. And I say all my other Mandalorian sets, I only have one other. But it's really good to have this as part of the collection. And to have a Season 2 set is just really exciting as well. And obviously to get the Mandalorian and the child is really cool too. I don't have the child, but I do have the Mandalorian, just not the Beskar armor version, so it's just really cool to get that too. But yeah, I definitely think the speeder is really good in terms of detail. Might be the best detailed thing out of this. If not, the Dragonfly harpoon launcher thing is really, really well detailed too. The hut has some detail to it. They didn't throw too much into it, but that's not a big deal. That's probably not going to be the main attraction to this set. But I definitely think the Dragonfly harpoon launcher thing and the speeder are what are going to be played with most and used most in your collection, or whatever the case may be. I think the only downside to this set is there's two that I would say, one more so than the other. Obviously, I mentioned the way Mandalorian sits down. I spent a lot of time during this review trying to sit him down onto the speeder, and it was really tough to do, and it just doesn't look right to me for some reason. It might look normal to you, it might just be me, but I think they could have done a better seating mechanism for that speeder for the Mandalorian. But I definitely do like Grogu's little spot on the speeder here. I mean, it just looks great to throw him along. The only other downside that's more or less so, not as important, is the flick fire missile on the Dragonfly launcher thing. Depending on how you hit it, it might launch, it might not. If you hit it just right, it's going to launch, and it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, that is the Trouble on Tatooine set number 75299. Thanks for watching this LEGO Star Wars set review, and I'll see you on the next video.